Good morning. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us at e-KLESF 2022. My name is Lee Won Xiang from University Tunku Abdul Rahman, Utah. Today, we are presenting a webinar titled Solving Inventive Problems by Mr. Tan Yong Lee. Mr. Tan is a lecturer from Department of Mechanical Engineering, Faculty of Engineering and Technology, Tunku Abdul Rahman, University of Management and Technology, TAR UMT. Just a little housekeeping before we start. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat box. We will bring them up during the Q&A session at the end of this webinar. All participants, please sign your attendance in the link posted in the chat box. Okay, now without further delay, let us turn the time over to Mr. Tan. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Misty. Thanks for hosting me. I am Tan over here. You can call me as Johnny. I am currently a trees laboratory practitioner and also a lecturer from Tunku Abdul Rahman University of Management and Technology, the previous TAR University College. For starter, I would like to just share my appreciation to everyone who is here today, joining me, and to talk about problem solving using inventive principles using trees. Without further ado, we just go into the slides right away. Just a moment. Yep. So in the trees itself, it is a problem-solving methodology. To many of you who are here today, no matter you're young or you're old, you are slightly older, trees is a quite powerful tool for everyone to actually use it into solving anything from life into your work or even into your study as well. So what we need to do is basically to identify what are the contradictions that we are having and then try to come up with different ways to mitigate that. So what are all these things, right? Trees itself and so on and so forth. But before that, let's get into the first thing. Suddenly inventor appeared and solving inventive problems with trees. In the older days, where when we are solving problems, most of the time we will go through trial and error. So even in our younger days, right, when we are studying in the primary or secondary school, our teacher will always ask us, "Come on, come up with some idea, solve it, give me some suggestions," and here and there. And most of the most frequent word that is being used in this case is usually, "Come on, student, think out of the box." And I'll be asking myself, what is out of the box? What is already inside the box? And what is already not in the box? I have no idea. You see, so trees comes in when I was still around 2012 when I studied my tertiary education, the third year of me in the university life, and it was brought up by my lecturer then. So from then until now, I've been participating in trees-related workshops and also problem solving for like 11 years, right? I would say more or less about 11 years. From the very young kids that don't know how to think about the box and think out of the box, and now I'm still in the box, but my box actually grows bigger. All right, so how do I actually go and get into that? Well, everyone can just join in the journey and post up questions anytime, anywhere. I will try to explain them and also to interact with you from time to time. All right, if you're great, can type in 1 in the chat box. Thank you. Now, in some of the problem solvings, right, it is like everyday life items. Now, you see here, imagine yourself when you are riding or whatsoever, you have, when you're riding a motorcycle or when you are driving on the car on the road, And then suddenly you encounter a herd of animal. In this case, a buffalo right in front of you if you are in Africa. Right? Then if you are in Malaysia, what would you like see? Probably elephants, probably monkeys in there. You see a monitor lizard that is like lying on the floor. So of course you will try to stop and then like right in front of them, waiting patiently for them to cross the road. But you waited first minute, second minute, it doesn't seem to move. So what would you do most of the time? You will sound horn, right? Because like most of the time, all these animals, they are quite afraid of loud noises, sudden, which are coming out suddenly. So what you will do is like sound a horn, beep, but then doesn't seem to work. The animal doesn't seem to be like, responding to what you are trying to do. Then what you will, then you waited, more cars arrived from both sides, and then the next thing, what would happen? Since one person's horn is not loud enough, you can always gather more people around to just sound the horn together. Of course, pressing the horn once, twice, people may not get it. The third time when you hit the horn, more and more people joining you, and the sound of the horn gets louder and louder and it gets more noisier. So all these animals, when they like starting to aware and they start to like move away from the group. So that is how you actually work it out. Now, the next over here is the story of Sang Kancil and the crocodile. I believe this is a Malay story that is being told from a long time ago until now. You're still hearing all these stories. So the story comes about something like this. So there's one day that this Sang Kancil wanted to cross a river, cross to the other side of the river to get to food. But then this Sang Kancil encountered a problem. This river is filled with crocodiles. Crocodiles will eat Sang Kancil alive if you just try to swim across the river like that. So what the Sang Kancil comes into the picture is that he suddenly thinks of one trick. So he calls a crocodile, one of the crocodile leaders, come forward and then asks, like, except becoming my lunch, what are you offering, right, to the Sang Kancil? Then the Sang Kancil will definitely say, then the Sang Kancil says that, I'm crossing the river to the next side to tell the king that to tell the king how many crocodiles over here, because the king is organizing a food feast. Yeah, so it is a very big event and all the crocodiles are being invited, but I need to tell them how many meals to be prepared so that all the crocodiles can be fed well, So what the crocodile thinks is that, oh, there is such a thing. So let us just gather around and let the Sang Kancil count like how many crocodiles that we are having right now. So Sang Kancil come up with an idea, organize them in a single file, one crocodile after another, and then later on, Sang Kancil immediately hops onto one and counted one, hops onto the second, counted two, hop onto the third, counted three, and fourth and fifth and sixth and blah blah blah, so on and so forth until Sang Kancil reaches to the next shore. So this is how Sang Kancil crossed the river. And then afterwards, Sang Kancil turned around and said, "You all being fooled by me," and left Sang Kancil from the scene. And the crocodiles are like, "What is happening right now?" So what Sang Kancil did is just to gather them around, gather all the small crocodiles around, all the crocodiles individual, and then put them into a single file and make use of the crocodiles to cross the river. And do you notice that if let's say we compare to the first incident about this buffalo and you yourself waiting, you have waited so long that so many cars are arriving, and then at the same time you guys sounded the horn. And over in this example, Sang Kancil gathered all the individual crocodiles and then used them as a stepping stone for it to cross the river. You are actually gathering resources and then utilize it at the same time. Now, this is actually a solution that is being applied, the same solution that is being applied in two different scenarios. So this solution itself is a merging solution. So you are trying to combine all the resources that you have and then organize them into the way that you can best make use of them. And that is trace. So sounds fun, right? Now, actually, we can we can come up with different solutions, probably different solutions to the same problem. All these solutions will usually result or come from a basic principles that are being shared across multiple regions. So to be frank and to be truthful to everyone, we are solving everyday's problem with everyday solutions. It is as simple as that. Everyone can definitely solve problems. It's just that whether or not have you come across a problem or have you actually learned through some other things and then later on to have your idea applied in the different situations, but in a similar fashion. You know? So what is the most important thing is here is that we have to come back to the basic and focus on the foundation. Now, for the younger self, what is reading? Is actually to decode words. You know, whatever language it is, Malay, English, or even Chinese, or I saw some of the participants, you are from Indonesia, and glad that you are here. So even Indonesian language, they are all a series of words, and you need to understand the words. And when you understand the words, you get information. And actually how to read, right? How to read, how to get all this information. It is just 26 alphabets, ABC until Z. So capital, letter, small letters. When the letters combine, it forms other things. It is the same as how many different languages are being formed. So language are just a way for us to get information. Now, the next part, what about singing? Singing is making sound, but it's not noise. All right. Why do you sing? Right? We try to entertain everyone. But then how to sing? We need to know the 7 notes, the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and higher octave, lower octave, or whatsoever. Those are just extension of that. Then what about innovation? Innovation is to create new things, right? You want to put new perspective into new things. Then why do we innovate? We just want to add value. Simple example, you found that the knives that you are using in your kitchen is not very good to hold, you know. Somehow the handle is like big, you know, it's not so nice to hold, not steadily, or it's too big enough, too big already, and your hand is so small that you can hold it, or it's too small but your hand is so big that you can hold it nicely. So how to innovate? So we can use 40 inventive principles to actually make it better, right? Like adding value to the knife, the holder, since it is so not so good to hold, probably we can just make a new holder that fits into our hand so that we can, you know, have it done better. So it sounds fun, right? So back to the basic, get to the foundation, and we will learn trees together, right? Now, to learn about the 40 inventive principles, we need to know trees first. But before we get to trees, let's take a look at innovation itself. Now, this is quite true for everyone here, because in order for us to innovate, many people will assume that creating new ideas in the beginning of the innovation process. But then most of the time, it is not true, right? Not true at all, because innovation, it starts with a problem or a goal, actually. How do we put it into the perspective? You were encountering a sort of like challenge right in front of you, right? Then, of course, when we face with challenge, we try to think of how to work around it. Basically, when we are thinking how to work around it, we are like smashing our head against the wall. You know, there is an invisible wall in front of us, and we're trying to smash our head through so that we see something behind, right? So this is how innovation works in most of the time, try and error, and then at the same time bashing our head through the obstacles. But it's not like that, right? We will usually go to people asking them, hey, do you have any idea? Right? I'm having this problem. This is definitely most of the big bosses out there when they are having their business challenge and so on. They will just go around to some of the people that they know that they are the bosses of another company. They will just come about and ask, "Hey, I have something like this. Do you know how to like work around or work through it, so on and so forth." So of course, in the process, you will learn, and then from one boss, from the second, from the third, from the fourth, and then finally he will come to a solution that come to a conclusion that probably this will be the way. So he will start to generate, to put the processes, to think how to solve the problem, and then later on make it work. So that is how innovation actually comes by, right? Not through trial and error, but actually through consultation, asking your teacher, asking your fellow friends, have you been doing something like this? How do you actually get through it? So maybe in the school days, all of us can relate very, very well, right? Hey, bro, how to solve these mathematical questions? I can't really add them up. A plus B equals to C. Why? So we are asking the same thing, right? And then, of course, at the end of the day, we know the processes, how to do it, we learn it, and we make it our own. Yeah. How do we actually go through that? And that is a process. There is no process to bash through the wall and look left, right, and find its solution. No, there's no such thing, but it is a very, very long process of gathering all these intellectuals. So kind of difficult, but there is actually a better way. Why am I saying so? Because innovation itself is risky, right? For everyone over here, when you are students also, your teacher is asking you to solve a particular problem, and your teacher might say that, hey, this could be $1 million question, what you are solving, right? Try to give you the passion, try to instill you the success stories and so on. Yeah, all this thing. But I can tell you is that it is being proven that like 5,000 problems leads to one success. Yeah. So before you come to that one particular success, you need to solve another 5,000 problems first. 5,000 to 1. Yeah. That is how cruel the world is. So try your best, of course, to solve it, but there are systematic ways in order to think through the problems and then at the same time solve it at the end of the day. Now, it's your turn to take the race, but we have come up with some ways actually to help you reduce that 5,000 problems to probably half of it, 2,500, and from the 2,500 and further half it down to 1,250 problems, and then so on and so forth until you reach your success in smaller steps, in a fewer steps taken to become. So how do you lower the risk, increase the success story? It's about increasing the innovation efficiency. So it is about improving the way that you learn things about. Yeah. So in the context of whereby if you're a student right now, of course, there's no quick way. You have to read through all the books, but then trees could be a strategy for you to actually organize your time. Organize yourself in order to learn different things at different time and most efficiently towards your best use, right? Now, starting to get into trees, we have to know what is trees eventually. It is actually a Russian acronym to that long Russian word. I'm not trying to embarrass myself by pronouncing it. I know I've tried to learn it through Google Translate, but I can't seem to be able to read it out nicely. But it is translated into theory of inventive problem solving. And trees, TRIZ itself is being pronounced as trees. trees, right? And all innovation emerged from the application of a very small number of inventive principles and strategies. Now, trees itself is a very focused, systematic approach. I would say systematic approach means that it is like a few steps that you need to take in order to jump through the wall and get to the other side, not to bash your head against it, right? Get it all bruised up. Now, before we get into trees, it is actually being founded by this uncle over here. It's called Jerry Alschuler, and he's the father of trees. So in the 1946 until 1985 in the former Soviet Union and now the Russian, he has already gone through a lot of patent studies. Now, what this guy has done is that because he was a patent officer in one of the military setup, so what he done is that he synthesized most of the patents around the world, and including at Russia as well, the Soviet Union that time, and then he synthesized it down to 40 unique solutions, innovative patents. They are very like, hey, all these sounds fun, right? Special. They are very special. And then for this about 40,000 patents over here, he then synthesized it to 3 different things. 40 inventive principles for solving problems, and then the technological trend of innovation, and the last thing is a scientific effect. Now the last one, scientific effect, this one is a higher level kind of stuff, discovery. It utilizes a lot of different physics, natures, biology, chemistry, all this kind of stuff. It is pretty fun, While the technological trend as well as the 40 inventive principles, they are very good at solving what is in front of us and what is ahead of us. So solving into the future as well. This is kind of interesting, in trees. Now, let us start off with some quick example. Now, there is a bell pepper. If you are a cook, you know that the seeds in the middle you need to remove. So how do we usually remove a bell pepper seeds from the middle? We usually just slice off the top or slice through the middle, and then of course use our knife to cut the core out and then chop it down nicely and then cook it nice. But you can do it for one, but how to do it for so many or millions of bell peppers? Actually, there's an industrial way to do it here. The industrial way is that we can put it all into a into a pressure cooker, and then during the process, increase the air density slightly. That means like a little by little, we force air into the cooker, and then the next thing is we release the pressure suddenly. So through the release of pressure, the bell pepper's seeds, the core right inside it, will just explode, boom, it flies out through the stalk. Yeah, this is how it's being done in the industry. How do they remove the seeds from the bell pepper so quickly that in one instance, a few thousand bell pepper can be prepared? Yeah, so this is how it's being done. But you notice over here is that the solution is to increase the pressure slowly and then suddenly release it. So this is how it's being done. Now, the next one, how do we remove nuts from this shell? The peanuts, the groundnuts, and so on and so forth. How do we actually remove it? Pistachio, oh, I like it very much, but then it's so damn painful for my fingers every time. So how do they remove it in the industrial scale? Right? We don't want to use hammer, we don't want to use our hand, we don't want to use our mouth and teeth and to just bite it and grind it off. No, we don't want that. So how do they remove it? Actually, it is through the same principle. The nut is being put inside a container, shut it down, seal, and then put in water. Put in water, slowly, steadily increasing the pressure inside, and then suddenly release the pressure. The water that is at high pressure inside the nut will just burst out, crack the shell, and the nuts will just pop off nicely. So this is how it's being done. right? But again, look into the generic solution, it is slowly raising the pressure and suddenly reduce it. So that is pretty much how it is being done. Now, next one, 27 years later, how do they break an artificial diamond? It is actually the same kind of method as well. Slowly increase the pressure by using water in the container. You put the diamond in the container, close it up, put in water, slowly increase the pressure, and then suddenly release the water, release the pressure. And then what you get, the crack inside the diamond will develop, and then pop, the diamond will just open up. So that is how to break the diamonds into crystals. Again, similar solution is being applied across the year from 1945, 1950, and 1972. Now, all these things, they share the same principles. The thing is like this. Nowadays, if we talk about creativity, talk about innovations, it is now finding that solutions that fits to your particular problem. It is not like you are trying to reinvent the wheel. It's not, the wheel is there already. Just use the wheel and apply this to somewhere else so that it works again magically. So that is what trees is all about. Synthesizing all the resources that you have and then applying it to the problems that you are having. Now, from the try and error problem solving approach to a structured and systematic approach problem solving approach. So we are increasing the efficiency of speed and innovation. Right. I know most of you will agree that Thomas Edison is quite a genius person. He's a quite good entrepreneur. But the problem is that he utilizes 40,000 USD. Last time in 1879, 1,200 experiments and 500 researchers to just find the best material as the burning filament. That is absurd. You have wasted so many resources to just get the light bulb to work. But if he has learned trees before, probably he will just find it out with lesser resources that is being utilized. No, who knows, right? Now, there are trees being used in many, many different companies. These are just some of the examples. Even the brands that you know nowadays, like Samsung, is using trees in their initial time to develop through the technological barrier, so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, the methodology itself is being known to the world. And nowadays, and now you are staying in this channel to learn how to use trees, right? So again, trees is the theory of inventive problem solving. But what is an inventive problem, right? We know that it is a tool to solve problems, but first thing, what is inventive, right? If let's say we are talking about a normal problem, it is a problem without contradiction, right? Contradiction in the simple words is that you have one thing up, you have another thing that comes down, like a seesaw, right? One person goes up, another person comes down. Another person goes up, this person will just come down. So this is what a contradicting problem is. You want both people to go up at the same time? How would you do it? Right? Fascinating, eh? How to get two people going up at the same time? That is all about tricks. We don't want to try to compromise or sacrifice ourselves for the benefit of other people. But we want to make sure that both of the person can just go up at the same time, right? Enjoying all the benefits. So let's come to this. Just a quick, simple example to flex your muscle a bit here. If you add more than 50 kg to the table, 50 kg is how much? About 5 packs of 10 kg rice. 5 packs of rice you put onto the table will just break. The leg will just give up. Pop. So how would you solve the problem? Right? How would you solve the problem? Come on, just 10 seconds. How would you solve the problem? Most of the time, probably we just add more legs. Right? Add more legs or add more table at the side. But if you're just having that one particular table, what would you do to the table to make sure it's more steadier? Right? Basically, we will just add one more leg right in the middle or somewhere around to make sure that the table can sustain the weight, right? So that is a simple solution, right? But that is also a normal problem, right? But if I tell you that the leg, if you add it up, it increases the strength, right? The table become more sturdy, can withstand high strength, high load, high or heavy object, right? All the 5 packs of rice you put on top of it, you can like perfectly standing, no problem. But the table becomes more heavy right now, right? Because you have added one more leg over there, it becomes much more heavy, and the weight there is actually the inventive problem, right? Table become more steady or sturdy, but the weight becomes more heavy. Sounds like an interesting problem already. Yeah? So now if you want to solve this thing, like increasing the strength of the table without increasing the weight, how would you do it? That is the inventive problems that we are having right now. So if we add more legs, then the strength increases. This is something improving, but the weight will increase as well. That is the worsening parameters in this case. So what can we do? And if we are looking into trees, this is a problem with contradiction. And problems with contradiction, we can use a table called contradiction matrix. And this table is extremely useful. There are 39 different parameters or 39 different groups of things that we can look into and to determine which is the good one and which one is getting worse and worse and worse, right? Getting not so good at the end of the time. So what we can do is that match these two parameters and then we can see like what are the solutions that are available right before us. Yeah? Like last time, the uncle gave me Ausschüler, he studied so many like 40,000 different patents, and what he comes through is that there are some reference, right? Some methods that are being used across different things, but then he found out that segmentation, copy, chip shot living object, and composites, these are the best solutions to fit into this kind of problems. Yeah, so now you have it already. And what we can do is that we can always apply the solution. So again, what is a contradiction? An improvement in one thing causes the worsening or degradation of another one. So, for example, if I add heat, then the machine go faster, but it takes more energy, right? If I add heat to my wok, and when I'm frying my the noodles, the Indomie or whatsoever, when I turn up the stove, I get more heat from the fire, it gets more tasty. But the problem is that it takes more natural gas. Right? If I make the lift larger, right, I want to carry more people up into the building, but I will also increase the weight of the whole lift. So I want the lift to be light and at the same time can carry so many people. If I increase the power of the car, right, step on the pedal, or I flush my throttle, right? I trust my throttle, and then I can ride faster. But the problem is that I use more fuel, right? So traditionally, the problem is addressed by compromise. Okay lah, I know it's going to consume more, but in order to make sure that it's more delicious, I will sacrifice a bit lah, put in more natural gas to cook it. Yeah. So that is what we usually do. But it doesn't need to necessarily to be like that. Once we get the contradiction up, once we know what is improving and what is worsening, we can definitely come to a solutions that we can think of to help to reduce the worsening factors, like the bad part of the picture. Yeah. So what are inventive principles? At the end of the day, now, just like you hear me saying all these solutions, right? Segmentation and so on and so forth. What are they? These are the generalized principles that the uncle Jerry Ausschüler has founded out and then synthesize it and make it so easy for us to understand that probably if you are trying to solve a problem, you can try to look at these 14 different things that is around and then check if let's say any one of you that is suitable to your application. Yeah, so it is a generalized rule that is accepted as fact and works in exactly the same way consistently and usually follow as the basis of reasoning or explanation of the invention. What are they? Yeah, these are the 14 inventive principles. Of course, these principles, they usually work with the contradiction matrix. So out of the contradiction matrix, there are actually some matching pairs, like one increasing in weight and another decreasing in whatsoever. There will always be a suggested solution down here. So the suggested solutions are the inventive principle. There are 40 of them all together, and usually most of the time, I'll say most of the time, there will be like 3 to 4 solutions or the principles within that particular contradiction. Right? Just now when we say we want to fry things, make it more delicious, but we're going to use more natural gas. So finding out what is the parameter that is good and that is worsening, and we will get some solutions here. And these are the solutions, the 40 inventive solutions. We are not able to go through everything over here. If not, you will be staying with me for 2 days. So let's look into some of the principles that are available in this case. Now, the first one is segmentation. Segmentation by the word itself is basically to separate things, right? Easiest example, you went to IKEA, you go to IKEA, you buy all the furniture and all this thing, they are all in a small rectangular box, right? Properly sealed up nicely. You come back, you do it as a DIY project, right? You have your screw, you have your whatsoever thing, and then you put up the box, you put up the cupboard, and so on and so forth, and finally you are presented with the stuff. You are extremely satisfied with what you're doing, right? So that is segmentation. Basically, separate the boxes or the container whatsoever and make it into a smaller independent parts, right? Smaller parts make the object sectional or increase the degree of object segmentation, right? Or for some of you who are working, you break into smaller teams, like students group, 30 of you inside the group, difficult to manage. Your teacher comes in, line, a few of you sit into one group, 5% in the group. Yeah, you get smaller groups, so the teacher can just walk around to entertain everyone better. So that is also segmentation. Now the next one is called extraction, taking out, right? Like the word itself, taking out the tooth, and like aircon compressor unit, this one is like this. There is always a compressor unit that is outside of the building, and there is always an internal part that gives you the cold air, right? So that is the taking out as well. Taking out the hot part of the aircon, leave it outside, and leave the nicer one in the room itself. Medical ampoules, these are just medical bottles. If you ever need injection or whatsoever, you will probably see this thing quite often, right? Small medical ampoules where they just fill with the necessary parts, right? You just take all of it. Yeah, that is the portion that you need to take. So extraction or taking out is to separate interfering part of the property for the object or extract only the necessary part of the property of an object. So either you take out a small part or a big one. So you move a person to an area where the person's strength can be utilized, you're also taking out, right? You take away restaurant and take away part of the business process and outsourcing, that is also part of the taking out. Now, asymmetry. Change the shape of an object from symmetrical to asymmetrical. And if an object is already asymmetrical, increases the degree of symmetry. So for the first example, chair. We have a normal chair, right? Left side, right side, they are the same, right? They are perfectly identical from the midsection. Left side, right side, they are the same. But if I change to the chair that has a taller rest over here, so instead of just like a chair over here right now, there's nothing for me to just like lay against. I can have a taller structure over here where I can just lift my head over to the rest. Yeah, so something like that. Even hairstyles or fashions and phase also. These are all asymmetrical examples. Now the next part is merging and consolidation. So bringing closer together identical or similar objects. For example, the identical or similar object to perform parallel operation. Right? Merging, put everything together. The Sang Kanjo put all the crocodiles together so that he can just hop onto each and cross the river. And we also gathered around at the same time and sounded our horn to chase away the animals. So that is what we call as merging as well. So some of the public places where space is a constraint, they will have a combined toilet whereby guys and girls can use the same bathroom at the same time. And bigger rooms, bigger halls can be separated and at the same time can be opened up with the shutter right in the middle to combine them into a bigger rooms. And rowers all sit together, so many of them, rowing at the same time to make sure that they can paddle the water through faster, right? Combining all the effects of everyone. Now, next one, universality, multifunction. So we are combining so many things into one thing right now, especially our phone, right? Used to be just a hello, hi object to now becoming something that you can play PUBG on, right? League of Legends, right? So yeah, this is just one of the very good example that we have the phone itself. Camper van that can now host a whole house inside, a child seat carrier that can now become a stroller as well as a carry-on basket. You know, toilet with heated seat and underwater jet. You know, this is quite common in Japan and Korea, and of course the rest of the world. And also a photocopier machine with printer, fax, scanner, whatsoever thing you can find. All things are there, right? They are so much advanced right now. Some of the photocopier can even do like 3D printing. Yeah, there are something like that. Well, anyway, so many different functions are being combined. Now, the next one, nested door, right? Nested door, for example, you can put things, the bigger one, the smaller one into a bigger one. These are all nested doors. The Russian door, Matryoshka doors, stacking cups for those who are camping so well, who are taking pictures. You will need tripods, and if you are traveling around, you have luggage bags that fit into one another, and even like the antenna of a car. Now this one is kind of old already, I hope, but it's quite a good example as well, where you have a radio antenna where you can just pull along, yeah. Umbrella, some of the umbrella can just store together. The long umbrella can just stack and then become a smaller one. Cooking pots, moms, right, fathers who likes to cook, right? Or these pots can just install onto each other, become a very, very consolidated one. So these are all nested door examples. Now another one, counterweight. Counterweight, you can just fly, you float. These are very good example of solutions like helium balloons, right? Temporary suspend a cable over the river. You have planes that uses aerodynamic, then dynamization table that can be expanded and skip just down if let's say you don't have so many guests around. Chairs, wheelchairs, bikes that even can now be folded and stored into cars and bring onto MRT to just travel around. So many different things now. And continuity of use of action. This one is kind of special because what we would do is that if you have a watch, the watch itself, you just keep on turning, keep telling you time, right? It doesn't stop, even though you don't look at it, even though you don't look at it. It just keep on continuing, right? Working. The photocopier and so on. So photocopier, if you know how it works, it's actually coming back and then print, coming back and then print like that. So this is what photocopier used to do. But right now, what do they do in the Fuji, Canon, all these people? What they do is that while going back, they print as well. So these are just useful actions. They need to print, or they need to walk around in order to print. So last time it was just one way. Now it becomes both way that it can print. It prints faster, 2 times faster. Yeah, so that's how continuity of this reaction is being used. The principle. Intermediary, something in between. So for you to hold, for you to actually brush or whatever, how do you apply, how do you actually do some other things. Now, all these are intermediary, something in between that you can use to grab things. Yeah. So all these temporarily connecting object, these are all intermediary. Now, just a quick exercise. We have 6 pictures over here. We'll just go through every one of them and see if you understand. Now, the first one is the container with cover. And you see that the bottom there, they are bigger container, smaller and smaller and smaller on top. They can be stored all together into one. So this is the concept of nested doll. Now, the next one is our mask. Mask to cover our mouth. So this is something that is placed right in between us. So it is between us and the environment. So that is an intermediary, something in between. Now you see this person that is lying on the bed that is floating. Now you know that this floating characteristic is what anti-weight is. The rags over there, it is usually for us to keep our bite. And in order to keep our bite, usually they space out quite evenly. So that is local quality, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no. I think it's merging. Yeah, I think it's merging. Let's look at the example later on. And you have cake. Now you use knife and you cut across that is segmentation. Last but not least is the projector, right? You see the projector head, it is on the left side. It is not in the middle. So this is an asymmetrical problem, right? Asymmetry as a solution. So now you see here. All right, so these are the solutions. Now the bicycle right over there is because that usually one is for just one. But if you combine them all together, you can put it this side and that side as well, right? So this is kind of fascinating, yeah? The example over here. So again, if you are to given this problem again, that if you put 50 kg onto the table, the leg will break. And if you just add more legs, problem solved, this is just a normal problem, right? But if you consider further that if you add more legs, the weight will increase, then this will become a problem with contradiction. And back to this again, if you look into trees, you will find out that there are actually segmentation, copying, chip shot living object, and composites that you can use. And all these 4 solutions, they are all available inside Inventive Principles. These are just principles, right? Looking at them, how does it actually spark your mind? I think this is a very good solution, right? Probably A could be a good solution, B could be a good solution, C and D even sounds nice, you know. Then you can try on and see A, B, C, and D whether or not they fit into your case. And if it fits, thank you. You have already found solutions. All right. So last but not least, let's look into one particular example. This is a case study on the Coca-Cola bottle, right? This Coca-Cola bottle actually comes by in 2013, if I'm not mistaken. 2013 across until 2016. You know, the glass bottle that we used last time, that is being sold as a nostalgic, classic item, classic Coca-Cola bottle, right? Everywhere, if you go to especially beaches, when you are just wandering around, you will definitely see some people selling Coca-Cola in a glass bottle, right? Especially if you go to Thailand right now. Now it's not quite the season, but you can go around and see people selling Coca-Cola in the glass bottle. And of course, once you drink it, you need it cold, right? So you have to take the glass bottle and put it into ice. And then once you're done with the drink, what do you do with the glass? You either throw it into the dustbin or you recycle it, and that's it, right? So you're creating rubbish at the same time. So what Coca-Cola did is something special. Let's look into this. Let me quickly share with you a video that talks about this. Just a moment. Listen to this.
I'm a kind of ice freak, and tonight our instant index begins with a dream come true for those of us who want the last sip of soda as cold as the first.
Could we make a 100-year-old bottle any cooler? That's what the real ice-cold Coca-Cola bottle did.
A ideia da garrafa de gelo movimentou a praia de Guaratuba.
É mais gelado, é mais gostosa.
The ice bottle took over the beaches of some countries where promotions and even frozen direct mails were delivered. But Coca-Cola wanted to take this to another level. The cost per sample was reduced by 80%, which made possible a major scale production. The bottle's liquid capacity increased and its shape improved, updating its design. The bottle wows people wherever it goes.
A bottle made of ice! This is the dopest thing I've ever seen!
Wow! This is made of ice? That's crazy!
Skateboarding with an ice bottle. It doesn't get any more cooler than that.
Ice bottle. That's right, the bottle is made completely of ice water.
นะครับอยากจะมาร่วมสัมผัสกับประสบการณ์สดชื่นซะ
Es muy refrescante para la gente aquí en la playa. Muchas gracias, Coca-Cola.
More than 1.3 billion social media impressions. An earned media value of $6,500,000. Isn't it way cool?
Sorry, can't hear you.
All right, sorry. Thanks. This is the story of how Coca-Cola makes advertisements, It's so special that the bottle itself is made of ice, and then you can serve the drink cold, chilled, from the box itself. Yeah. Then afterwards, you can chew the ice as much as you like, and then if you're done with it, you can just leave it anywhere, because eventually it turns into just a powerful water at the end of the day. Yeah, you don't create any sort of waste at the end of the day. And of course, it is kind of like cold to hold, right? So at the end of the day, there is a red bracelet down there that helps you to hold it down. And if you are done with the bottle of ice Coca-Cola, you can just wear it as a bracelet, right, on your hand. So that's the special thing about Coca-Cola during back then, but then now they don't really get so many special things again anymore. Kind of still waiting for them to break through this kind of advertisement bottleneck, but still waiting for them to come up with, right? Now, let me just quickly share to the screen. Back to this. All right, so the inventive principle being used over here is uniformity. So making the same bottle again, but just changing the object, right? Changing the object into some other bits to make it better. Now, another thing is to wrap around the bottle with the red logo band, the bracelet, right? The rubber bracelet. So it's an intermediary. It's easy for people to hold it down. So now what you see here is that trees itself is the building block of innovation. And through innovative principles, inventive principles, it actually helps to shape our mind around things that we can actually think through to find the best solutions for our problem. So here is it, like innovation is risky, right? If you rely back into the ways that we have been thinking, like the teachers has been thinking, like the teachers has been telling you, think out of the box, think out of the box. But in the first place, what is the box? Right? What is the box? It is very risky to say so, and it's very difficult to always think out of the box. But there are methods actually out there to help us to work around so that we can have our idea being sparked somewhere, somehow. I don't know how it works, but it just gives me some ideas. Some of the words, some of the people's, some of the previous experience. So for everyone over here, no matter you are young or you are slightly older, whatsoever, right? Read, and read. Watch some of the YouTubes, watch different things, get all the resources that you can hold to just know things around. And by that, you will definitely find solutions around you. And especially with trees, right? With trees to formulate yourself in order to think in a systematic way, you can definitely break through in everyday's life. Yeah, so that's all for the presentations today. Thank you for staying until the end. And I think this will be the sessions for the Q&A.
Thank you, Mr. Tan. We will go ahead and take some time for some question now. So to all participants, just a reminder, if you have any question, please type them into the chat box. For those who are watching from Facebook, you may type your question in a comment also. We will bring them up to Mr. Tan. At this moment, there is no other question. I think let us take a group photo first while waiting to see if we get any question.
Sure.
Okay, so everyone, if you are convenient to turn on the camera, please turn on and we will take a group photo. Or if you can't, then you may give Mr. Tan a reaction, a thumbs up. One moment. Okay, I've seen some of the camera. Okay, so we take a few shots. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone, do you have any question? Or if you have any question to ask Mr. Tan in future, maybe you can leave your comment at the Facebook Live video, then we will pass the message to Mr. Tan.
Yeah, I have also put up my contact down there in the chat box as well. If any of you would like to have an extension of discussions over there, you can just let me know.
Yeah, this is Mr. Tan email, and then also just a message from Mickey Call, say thank you for the nice presentation.
Right, thanks, Mickey.
Hope all the participants you get inspired from the presentation in this morning. Okay, so there's no other question for now. So thank you, Mr. Tan, again for this insightful webinar. Okay, so dear all participants, please join us for the next webinar titled Technology and Career in Esport at 10 a.m. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Miss Lee. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Tan. Bye.